Good morning children. In today's class we are proceeding with applications of partial derivatives. Exercise 6.5. Today's class we are going to learn some interesting concept called partial elasticities of demand. Q is a function of two different prices, say P1 and P2. How am I to find out elasticity of demand Q with respect to P1? Q with respect to P1. So I call eta QP1. I denote it as EQ by EP1. How am I to remember this formula? When it is EQ by EP1, I will write down dou Q by dou P1. EQ by EP1 mentioned in the question. Remember how to write it. For EQ by EP1, let us write dou Q by dou P1 and reciprocate Q by P1. I will write P1 by Q. And whenever it is elasticity of demand, remember to put minus symbol. The same idea here. When it is with respect to price P2, I denote it eta QP2 or EQ by EP2. How should I write it now? Dou Q by dou P2, Q by P2. So reciprocate P2 by Q. And elasticity of demand naturally claims us to put negative symbol. So these are the two important formula based on which we have the 5-mark problem. Exercise 6.5, question number 5. The demand for a commodity A is Q equals 13 minus 2P1 minus 3P2 square. Find the partial elasticities EQ by EP1 and EQ by EP2 when P1 and P2 are equal to 2. Given Q, to substitute in the formula, I want dou Q by dou P1. Now, I differentiate Q partially with respect to P1. So, treat P2 as a constant. 13 is a constant which becomes 0 minus 2. P1 becomes 1 minus 3. P2 square. Because I am doing with respect to P1, this will become 0. So what is my answer? Minus 2. Similarly, what is dou Q by dou P2? Dou Q by dou P2, I am partially differentiating Q with respect to P2. 13 constant becomes 0. Now I do with respect to P2. P1 is a constant, so that also becomes 0. Minus 3 into P2 square will become 2P2. As I multiply, it is minus 6P2. Let us remember the formula. Partial elasticities of Q with respect to P1. EQ by EP1 is minus P1 by Q, dou Q by dou P1. So EQ by EP1 is minus P1 divided by, what is Q from the question? 13 minus 2P1 minus 3P2 square into dou Q by dou P1. My answer is minus 2. As I multiply, EQ by EP1 equals to minus into minus plus 2P1 divided by 13 minus 2P1 minus 3P2 square. Given P1 equals P2 equals 2. EQ by EP1 equals 2. 2 into 2 by 13 minus 2 into 2 minus 3 into 2 square. As we simplify, it is EQ by EP1 is 4 by 13 minus 4 into 3, 12. Or it is 4 by minus 3. So, EQ by EP1 equals minus 4 by 3. Partial elasticity of Q with respect to P2. The formula minus dou Q by dou P2. Reciprocate P2 by Q. As I substitute EQ by EP2 equals minus P2 by, what is Q from the question? 13 minus 2P1 minus 3P2 square into dou Q by dou P2 is minus 6P2. Minus into minus plus 6 into P2 into P2, P2 square divided by 13 minus 2P1 minus 3P2 square. As I substitute P1 equals P2 equals 2, I get EQ by EP2 equals 6 into 2 square by 13 minus 2 into 2 minus 3 into 2 square, or we get 6 into 4 divided by 13 minus 4 minus 12. That is EQ by EP2 equals 24 divided by minus 3, or I will say minus 8. Let us take and write the answer. EQ by EP1 equals minus 4 by 3. EQ by EP2 equals minus 8, and hence the problem. Question number 6. The demand for a commodity A is Q equals 80 minus P1 square plus 5P2 minus P1 P2. Find EQ by EP1 and EQ by EP2 given P1 is 2 and P2 is 1. As I know Q, to find EQ by EP1 and EQ by EP2, I need dou Q by dou P1. Also dou Q by dou P2. Differentiating Q with respect to P1. Let us be careful. I am doing with respect to P1. P2 comes alone, it will become 0. P2 comes with P1, keep it as it is. So 80 constant becomes 0. P1 square becomes 2P1. Here no P1 at all, it becomes 0. Minus, keep P2 as it is, P1 becomes 1. So what is my answer? Minus 2P1 minus P2. In the same way, let us find out dou Q by dou P2. 80 is a constant becoming 0. Now I do with respect to P2. So P1 square is a constant that also becomes 0. 5 into P2 becomes 1 minus, keep P1 as it is. Now I am doing with respect to P2. So P1 is like coefficient. Keep P1 as it is, P2 becomes 1. Simplifying which I get 5 minus P1. Now let us write the formula for EQ by EP1. It is dou Q by dou P1, reciprocate P1 by Q. Remember to put minus symbol. So what is EQ by EP1? It is minus P1 by, what is Q from the question? 80 minus P1 square plus 5P2 minus P1 P2 into, what is dou Q by dou P1? Minus 2P1 minus P2. As we multiply, EQ by EP1 equals minus into minus plus 2 into P1 into P1, P1 square minus into minus plus P1 into P2, P1 P2. Denominator 80 minus P1 square plus 5P2 minus P1 P2. Given P1 equals 2 and P2 equals 1. Let us substitute. EQ by EP1 equals 2 into 2 square plus 2 into 1 by 80 minus P1 square is 2 square, 5 into P2 is 1 minus P1 is 2, P2 is 1. As we simplify, 4 2s are 8 plus 2 by 80 minus 4 plus 5 minus 2. Simplifying which we get 10 by 79. Now let us write the formula for EQ by EP2. It is dou Q by dou P2 reciprocate P2 by Q minus symbol. So minus P2 by Q dou Q by dou P2. EQ by EP2 equals minus P2 by, what is Q from the question? 80 minus P1 square plus 5P2 minus P1 P2 into dou Q by dou P2, 5 minus P1. As we multiply, it is EQ by EP2 equals minus P2 into 5 minus into minus plus P1 P2 divided by 80 minus P1 square plus 5P2 minus P1 P2. Wherever P1 comes 2 and P2 comes 1. So EQ by EP2. As you substitute minus 5 into 1 plus 2 into 1. P1 is 2, P2 is 1. Denominator 80 minus 2 square plus 5 into 1 minus 2 into 1. Minus 5 plus 2 by 80 minus 4 plus 5 minus 2. Simplifying which we get the answer minus 3 by 79. Let us take and write down the answer. EQ by EP1 10 by 79. EQ by EP2 is minus 3 by 79.